Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the FearFans podcast. I'm your host, Don Elmy, and man, we got a big gathering here today. We got my co-host, Nick Mulay, head of Things Network, Jeremy York. Let's see, we have Nikki, we have Greg, and we have a new friend of ours, Kate.
Hi.
Man, and here's one of my friends, one of my buddies from YouTube. How's it going, Billy?
And Don, don't forget one other name that just showed up. Hang on one second of this damn StreamYard. Yep, here we go.
Hey, Jill.
What's up, Jill?
Hi. Hey, Jill. Hi.
All right. So, yeah, we man, this is a big gathering. This is the first time that I know of that we've had 7 people, and with Tom joining, it's going to be 8. So
we got a full house.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay. So tonight we got quite a topic to cover tonight, and so I figured it's been a while since we covered a Stephen King related film, and since Jeremy's a big fan of Stephen King movies and miniseries, and so I decided we should cover like one of the earliest examples, and it's the 1979 miniseries Salem's Lot, and it's the very first that I know of, the very first Stephen King miniseries.
It is
series.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, and one thing you'll notice about Stephen King's work, once he puts it out, it doesn't take very long for it to adapt to film, because like within just a few years, they adapted Carrie to film, and then Salem's Lot, and so on.
Yeah.
Initially, it took a while because I think Carrie came out in '74, but it wasn't until 1980 before they even made the third adaptation to his work, and he had been putting a minimum of 1 book out a year.
I think it was actually 76. I think it came out, Carrie.
The movie, yes.
Yeah.
The movie, yes.
Oh, he means the book. Okay, yeah.
The book, yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. And Stephen King is one of my all-time favorite authors. You know, like The Stand being my all-time favorite, and It being a close second. Salem's Lot is third favorite. You know, the man's produced. Needless to say, he's produced some amazing work over the years.
And still going strong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm actually in the middle of the latest book he just put out last week.
Holly?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I need to look into it. Oh, yes. Oh, here. Don and Nick, have you heard this movie is being adapted and remade again? Yes. I've been keeping tabs on it, but it's taken a while for it to get off the ground, and I'm pretty sure the strike has been holding it back even further.
No, actually, it's beyond that. The movie's already been made. It's been made for at least a year. Oh. And based on when they initially wanted to release it, it should have been released over a year ago, but they keep pushing it back.
Oh, that's what I mean. It's been taking them a while to get it like released. Yeah, but yeah, they just keep on delaying it. Oh, hey, Leon, good to see you. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining.
As of right now, there is no release date for it.
So this is an actual theatrical release, right? Not like it was the original one, right?
Yes.
Correct.
Yes, and this is the third attempt that I know of putting the original story to film, because the second attempt was another miniseries from back in 2004 that had Rob Lowe. Mm-hmm. Rob Lowe playing Ben Mears.
Yeah.
And Rob Lowe was in Stephen King miniseries before. I believe he played Nick Andros in the Stand miniseries.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Stand.
Yeah, the Stand is a good one. Let's see.
Yeah.
Oh, here. Johnny Quest and Captain.
You guys, excuse me just for a second.
Oh yeah, like he's the reason why he's asking about this is because I was on a video game live stream yesterday playing Uncharted, and he was asking me like if I remember. We were talking about TV shows. He was asking if anybody remembers that. But
I remember watching. I remember watching Captain Planet when I was a kid. Johnny Quest, not so much.
Yeah, I wasn't too fun. I wasn't too big on either one of those back then. I was focusing on other shows. But as for this miniseries, the director is Tobe Hooper, who prior to this was known for directing Texas Chainsaw Massacre, one of my favorites. Oh yeah, 1974, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah. And just a few years after this, he would collaborate with Spielberg to create Poltergeist. And you know, like I'm just trying to figure out, like, there were, like, he's made quite a lot of movies, but as time went on, there were some really pretty bad ones that I remember, such as Mortuary and Crocodile. Yeah, like it's like I'm just
I
thinking, what
actually
happened?
just watched one called The Funhouse a couple days ago.
Yes, The Funhouse. That's a good film.
I remember that. I remember first seeing that on AMC. You know, like I believe it was during their Fear Fest. Yeah, where
Yep.
they always show horror films around Halloween.
I saw it first.
It wasn't until I was looking up the movie while I was watching it that it was directed by Toby Hooper.
Oh yeah.
See, I remember the first time I saw that one. That was when it was like a decade ago, and Sven Gulli, of course, at one point showed it, so that's how I was able to see it then.
That's right. Oh yeah, he also did Life Force. That's correct.
Yeah, Life Force. I was thinking of that one too.
Oh man, it's been ages since I saw that one. That one is basically like space vampires. You know, it's.
So I have a question. Do you guys have high expectations for this film then because of the director, or are you a bit skeptical how good it's going to be?
I believe it does have some good amount of potential being adapted into the theatrical film, because given that the original version was released as a miniseries on cable TV, there were limitations about what they could put out there as far as content, storytelling, because thinking back to the book, there were some things that they had to cut out that would not have been going well with audiences back then. But I should mention, who originally was set to direct the original Salem's Lot it wasn't Toby Hooper, it was George Romero, who is known for directing Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, all those zombie movies.
And just a point of correction is that the original Salem's Lot miniseries actually aired on CBS. And the interesting question, Kate, or the answer to your question, Kate, too, is, and maybe Jeremy, you know this because I don't know, is what are they doing? What are they doing with the movie? Are they following more closely to the novelization, or are they going to actually kind of do like a remake of the miniseries? Because, for example, Barlow is a completely different character between the miniseries and the novelization.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, Barlow in the second miniseries, it's actually a lot closer to the one that was in the book.
Right.
As far as expectations of the theatrical film, I got low expectations because, one, this is going to be a 2-hour, maybe less than 2-hour movie, whereas the miniseries was 3 hours.
Yeah.
And even in 3 hours, they still had to cut a lot of stuff out.
Yeah.
On both miniseries. So how are you going to be able to try to fit the whole book into 2 hours?
That is a good question. They could. Maybe they are releasing, maybe there will be a sequel right after that, splitting into several parts. Like this is just part one. I mean, that's a possibility.
Kind of like they did with the remake of it, almost.
Exactly.
That is not happening with this one. Because if they were going to do that, then they would not have postponed this one as much as they had, because that would be a major age difference unless they did it secretly and just not say anything about it.
Right. And as far as what you were saying, Greg, about Barlow being about Kurt Barlow being a minor character in the miniseries compared to the book, that part is true. And I looked into it, and remembering the film, it looked like he had less than 2 minutes worth of screen time, and apparently the actor wasn't very happy about that.
And yet he had the biggest impact.
Exactly.
It's just amazing what he did. And I mean, when it came out, I was 5 years old. And for some reason, my mom was okay with me watching it over the 2 nights. And I remember the cliffhanger very much. But the whole thing is extraordinarily frightening for a young person. I think it stands up very well, too.
Yeah.
Don, to go along with what you were saying about the actor not being too happy about it, he mostly wasn't very happy about the makeup and the contacts that he had to wear.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there are productions where the actors do struggle with that. Yeah, having to sit in the chair, have all that makeup applied, and keep it on, and yeah.
It takes a toll on them sometimes.
It does. Jim Carrey had to do that when he went to the Grinch, when he played the Grinch. So.
I have a very, very general question to ask
Yes.
each person in this live at the moment. So the most recent Stephen King novel that I read was Rose Madder. I don't know if you guys have read it.
Not yet.
That's going to be my next one after I get done with Holly.
Okay. So
I've not read it.
the thing that really, really kind of shocked me with Rose Madder and the way that he writes it is that he writes it in the view of a woman, and it's very, very incredibly descriptive, and there's a lot of domestic abuse that goes on. And I just feel like, how can this guy write like this? He's really inside this person's head as a woman and how she feels and what's going on. But then he switches and he goes into the husband's head and writes, the husband is a complete psychopath. And I'm just thinking, how can somebody write this? And it's just incredible. So I just wanted to ask each of you, how do you think Stephen King can write like this? Does it take a toll on him? Is he a psychopath? Is he just incredibly imaginative? Where does this come from? Is
There's
what
there,
was he was like is he a reincarnation? Like how? So yeah.
He actually brought that up on an interview that I was watching of his. Number one, and I can speak from experience on this because I'm a writer as well, and for us, we do a lot of people watching. We watch people. I don't want to say in a stalking way, but pretty damn close to it. Because you really got to be able to study people, study their behaviors, and he also has a lot of people to draw upon. Now, for Rose Maddow specifically, I don't know quite how he did it that way, but I do know that when he came to writing Carrie, he leaned on Tabitha a lot for the female dialogue and the point of views.
That's right.
I see. So you think that he is just incredibly perceptive of people and watching them and really living in their shoes and how that must feel.
It has to be. Look at the hundreds of stories that he's put out, not just the novels, but he's also put out like 150 short stories and novellas.
Yeah, that's right.
Interesting. I'd like to ask the ladies what they think about this as well. Jill, what do you think?
Yeah, he's just got a brilliant mind. The movies, the shows probably are subpar to the novels, of course, so they leave out a lot of details or they adapt it a little bit so that they can, so they can produce it. So a lot of things are left out or changed a little bit, but he gets into the role of the character, just brilliant, to be able to switch from, okay, I got to go walk the dog, make dinner, and then go back to, his book writing or his storytelling. He just gets in that zone. And so sometimes I think he needs to get away from a lot of things, the distraction of it, and just really focus on that character and like be that character and submerge himself in it. So it does take a lot of, I guess, skill over time to learn how to go back and forth from who you are versus like who you're writing versus who you are as a character, as a person. And so, yeah, he probably does profile everyone to see and interview people, like what's your perspective on it, and just soaks it all in.
Yes, that is a very unique approach as far as applying real life to characters. Yeah, try to get in people's heads. Apply the psychology. Understand their psychology, their how they think. Yeah, I've seen this in many examples of his work.
It must really take a mental toll on him, though. He must have some sort of mental health, challenges writing this stuff, I can imagine, because it's so deep and so descriptive. It must, I don't know, I think I would have nightmares writing this stuff, and you kind of get yourself into this hole and you would, I don't know, maybe he's just really good at, like you said, you're just switching off, this is life, this is every day, and this is writing, and I'm just going to close the door on that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
As a follow-up, I do want to ask you: have you read Apt Pupil?
I haven't. No, sorry, no, I haven't read that one yet. I've got a whole like list, as I'm sure you guys do as well.
Real quick about Apt Pupil, it's in different seasons, and he
Right.
wrote that right after writing The Shining, I think it was. And after writing The Shining and after writing Apt Pupil, which is almost about 3/4 as large as The Shining was, he said he took 3 months off of writing because he was just so worn out.
Right, I see. Yeah, I mean, I can imagine because it's just so incredibly descriptive, and I just think, how can he know even like how it feels to be a woman who is abused in that way? It's just incredible. It really is. I don't think there's any other writer to match him, to be honest, for this genre and this amount of.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Nobody touches him. I know everybody has, but with all the different people that I've read, so nobody touches this guy.
Yeah.
He is the bar. He is the standard.
And also,
Totally.
too, I mean, to kind of also answer your additional answer to your question, Kate, is it is true also that Stephen King unfortunately did have a cocaine addiction while
and
writing
alcohol
his books.
and alcohol addiction.
And alcohol addiction. Yeah, it was basically, I mean, I don't know if you say that for a lot of writers, but it was probably, as I would probably describe it, as a alternative for him to try to keep writing, so he just couldn't give up, even though he was obviously doing more harm than good to himself at that time.
That's right. Yeah, because he stated in interviews that when he was under the influence of drugs and alcohol, it was at the point where he couldn't even remember books that writing some of those books, such as Cujo, Tommyknockers. So yeah, it's like, so even while under the influence of drugs, he is still able to write best-selling novels. Now that's how good of a writer he is.
But if you think about it, that was where his best work came from, when he was
Yeah.
under influence.
Yeah.
Yep. Maximum
That's
Overdrive.
what he says.
Yes, yes, Billy. That's the one and only Stephen King based movie that Stephen King himself directed and had AC/DC do the music.
No way. Okay, I have to watch that. Thank you, Billy. I'll definitely check that out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's based on
Maximum
his.
Overdrive is literally 100% the title. It is a Maximum Overdrive.
It is.
I don't know how else to explain it.
Yep, starring Charlie Sheen's brother, Emilio Estevez.
Emilio.
I just want to say, like, disclaimer: we're not promoting cocaine. Like, don't use.
Hey, we covered.
Even though it was his best work.
Hey, we covered a movie, Cocaine Bear, a few weeks back.
Great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wanted to get Nikki's opinion as well. What's your opinion about Stephen King? Like, how is he a genius? How does he do it?
I haven't actually read any of his books.
No worries.
So,
But what's your perception of him? What's your perception of him though, Nikki, when you hear the name though? A name must.
Oh, good. I can't hear.
Oh, Nikki can't hear. Okay, no worries.
Yeah, it's the storm that they're having over there. It's
Yeah.
the connection.
Exactly.
I got you.
No problem. What about Greg? So, Greg, I've heard that you're a massive Stephen King fan. What does he mean to you?
Yeah, I think with him, what I love about a good writer, that they can write the stuff that's very scary, but they also write about the stuff that's mundane, if that makes sense. Like in one of the anthology books he wrote, they talked about everyone being stuck in a supermarket. It's this, whatever that fog is that came through. Why can't I think of the name of it?
The Mist.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
And like they're waiting for it to subside, so they help themselves to the groceries. They're grilling chicken inside the place. They're just having a good old time. Little do they realize they're all going to die. But there's stuff like that. I love reading about everyday life as well, and that kind of that flip between the two. Salem's Lot, for example, one of the things that really stood out to me in the novelization was, and I can't remember the character that had a small child, and the small child kept crying, and the mom didn't know what to do, so she punched the child in the face. And he describes the swelling of the baby's eyes immediately,
Yeah.
and is starting to cry. And I read Salem's Lot about 30 years ago, and it's still with me because it's so powerful and it's so sad. And she immediately regretted what she did. And I think she gave the child like a donut or something. And immediately the child with teary eyes has a big smile because she got a donut.
Yeah, Sandy McDougal. That's the character, and
Thank you.
the son Randy. Yeah, because that's the most disturbing aspect of the book. Like the whole child abusing a baby. Like that's
right.
That's one of the biggest things that they left out of the movie, and you can understand why.
Thankfully,
yeah,
because that would have been quite controversial to have something. I mean, even back in 1979, that would have been a very controversial moment had they filmed it.
I wouldn't be able to watch it.
Neither would I.
Not be a show. It would not be a film I'd ever want to see again.
Yes. No. Oh, here, Billy's been asking this question right here. Sorry, Billy, but here, do you know that there was a Salem's Lot had a sequel, and have you seen it? Return to Salem's Lot. I have yet to see it because I've heard everybody keeps telling me don't see it. It's bad. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet.
It's not a worthy successor.
I tell you, as far as movie quality goes, it's pretty bad.
You've seen it?
A couple times, yeah.
Oh man,
it's just kind of.
It's not a high standard. This is almost less than a B movie.
And that's unfortunate because it was directed by Larry Cohen, who also directed the film "It's Alive" like almost over a decade earlier.
Well,
he made that.
And can I ask, how many of you wanted to see after Salem's Lot a worthy successor to Salem's Lot would have been a film series of David Soul, Lance Kerwin hunting down vampires from Salem's Lot? Like they did with Susan Norton. They finally caught up with Susan at the end of the miniseries.
That's right.
That's to me what I felt like we wanted to see more of, because it was very clear that even though Barlow is gone, that there were still plenty of vampires that were affected in Salem's Lot that were still out and about in the world. And they were, not only were Ben Mears and Mark tracking them, the vampires were tracking them, those two as well.
They're hunting each other.
They're hunting each other, absolutely.
Yeah.
With the way that Hollywood is now, that would absolutely fit in with what they have been doing with a lot of the shows today.
So true.
That probably was never even a thought.
No.
But I do like that idea.
Because it prefaces the film and then it ends the film, and it's a really good premise. But you're right, Jeremy. I mean, nowadays that would be a no-brainer, but back then it was just something to contain the film.
Yeah. Right now, I don't know if they're still doing it, but a couple of years ago, they did do the prequel for Salem's Lot based off of Jerusalem's Lot.
Yeah, Jerusalem's Lot,
yeah. Chapelwaite.
Jerusalem, right? Yeah.
Right.
They did Chapelwaite also.
That's the one I'm talking about.
Oh, that's what you're talking about. Okay, sorry.
The prequel.
Mm-hmm. Oh, here, Jeremy. Billy's asking if Return to Salem's Lot is worse than Pet Sematary 2.
It's been a long time since I've seen Pet Sematary 2, but I do remember that it also was pretty bad. I am going to go on a limb and say that the Salem's Lot here is probably better than Cemetery 2.
Yeah.
But let me hold off on that when I do it in my Halloween marathon.
I've never seen Pet Sematary 2, and I'm not sure if it's because I just think the first one is really good, or that I know that Fred Gwynn wasn't going to be in the second one because it's, he had died and his character.
He really made that movie.
Oh yeah.
Oh, he really did.
But it did have John Connor from Terminator 2.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, it did, and it also had Clancy Brown in the second one too. So it's got some like well-known actors. It's just one of those movies that's just not that good. The actors, I mean, they do great in the film, as far as acting goes. It's just that you're not probably as effective, I guess, for lack of a better term, as you would for the first one. It's just I've always said that once. It's okay, but it's still, nothing compared to the first one.
Now, Pet Cemetery, the original came out in '89. Am I correct on that?
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that was, to me, not only was it a good film, but that was like, for me, the dream summer film releases, because you had Batman that year, you had License to Kill, you had Ghostbusters 2, whatever, right? It was a big, it was
That was still a good film too.
it's a big summer blockbuster year. So it's like every week there was something like that you couldn't wait to come out. And Pet Cemetery, I think, was one of the early ones of that summer that was just like, okay, this is amazing. And you'd go to the films so you could see the trailers for the other films you wanted to see as well.
Correct.
I read Pet Cemetery earlier this year for the first time. There are some differences, but it's followed pretty closely. And if I remember right, I think Stephen King did the screenplay.
He did.
Pet
Yeah.
Cemetery.
And he played the minister at the cemetery scene.
Yeah.
To be perfectly honest, I don't think they could have done any better than Fred to deliver the line, "Dead is better."
Yes.
That was that was great. Oh yeah, they also Billy brings up another good point. They did release the trailer for it for the prequel, Pet Cemetery Bloodlines, I believe it's called. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do a reaction video to that. But
Oh wow,
yeah, I'm interested. It has me intrigued
because I heard it's supposed to be about the origins of the cemetery itself. Like, obviously, I mean, not just because I'm saying it's a prequel, but now we're actually going to be kind of getting a backstory of how this entire cemetery was created. And of course, it involves the Wendigos, you remember, in the remake.
Right. Correct.
It's not the cemetery itself that I'm interested in. It's the bad soiled land that I'm interested in.
Yeah,
That's far beyond the cemetery. That's what I want to see. I don't care about the Pet Cemetery. I want to see the lot behind it.
Right. Yeah. And let's see. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, there was one character I wanted to bring up in Salem's Lot in the miniseries. Stracker was like the character the probably was pretty much like the main villain of that instead of Barlow. Who. Like it's like in the novel, like you said, Barlow did a lot more than in the miniseries depicted. Where Stryker was in it, but he was like an extension of him, like his right hand man. He was what do they call that in both vampires? A familiar. Like
a familiar.
He's basically
basically his Renfield.
Yeah, because for those of you who don't know, like who are unfamiliar with vampire culture, a familiar is basically a vampire's assistant. Their right hand man. It's they're probably the most famous example of that, like Jeremy said, was Robert Renfield, who was Dracula's assistant. And let's see, there are several other examples of this in vampire movies, like in Blade, where Officer Krieger was a familiar doing dirty work for the main vampire, Deacon Frost.
And What We Do in the Shadows.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I love that show.
Oh, it's one of my favorites.
Well, and the other thing too. Go ahead, Kate. Go ahead.
No, so I just have a question about familiars. Does it have to be a person or like a vampire, or can it be an animal?
It's typically a person, like someone who is human, but there are several different takes on like how they're treated in films. Like in the Blade series, they could be human, but prove themselves loyal enough their masters turn them, and then that's typical in vampire movies and shows.
Well, to also add to it too, because I've actually seen this in other films and even some of the other horror television series. Although familiars are usually focused on with vampires, they're not just restricted to vampires. There are times where sometimes they'll have familiars involved, like with witches or certain type of demonic entities. Actually, probably one of the best ones I can think of is I don't know if you guys remember that TV show Salem. Not Salem's Lot, but Salem.
No. Yeah,
they had,
I remember.
Yeah, they had. That's obviously involving witches, and they had familiars. But the difference was with the familiars in that show was that they were not humans that were loyal to them. They were actually like demonic entities. Like, of course, understandably, you never actually saw the true forms of these familiars, but they appeared as different types of animals. So the typical way I could really describe the familiars in that show was that, unlike the vampire films, they're typically shapeshifters.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Let's talk about like probably one of the most terrifying aspects of Salem's Lot, which is the Marston house.
Yeah,
that's
Yeah.
a house that was bought by Barlow and Stracker, like as their like headquarters. And I gotta say, I love the way they depicted it in this miniseries. Like it actually looked super creepy, and for some reason, it actually reminds me of Norman Bates's house in Psycho.
Totally. And I just want to say, one of the greatest things about this, and this is movie magic because, obviously Salem's Lot was not shot in the East Coast. It was shot in Ferndale, California. And the house itself was built like as a facade on top of an existing house.
Yep.
They found the house on the hill exactly how they wanted, but it was a one-level house, and they built on top of it the rest of the Marsden house.
Yes, and they had to pay like the people who owned it to vacate it for while they're filming it. Like I think it was like $20,000 or $40,000,
which is a lot. It's a lot now. But
it was
back then.
I'd go for that right now. Yeah.
And they also made it to look very similar as the house that is featured on the cover of the book.
Yeah, it does.
Oh.
I've actually seen something like that during one of my road trips with Tom. I think it might have been when I was in Ohio or New York, and we were driving through like a wooded area, and we see this. It was not abandoned because of the state of the house it looked, but it was just like that. Yeah, it was like it was just so weird just to see a house like that, and of course, obviously, I had no doubt in my mind that whoever houses that house that was, I'm sure it had to be haunted just because of the appearance. But seriously though, it really did remind me a lot like the house in Salem's Lot. I just hope they weren't housing vampires, of course. But yeah, it was that's probably the closest I've ever seen to like a house kind of resembling that from Salem's Lot.
There's something I'd like to say, but I also feel like I'm talking over like Jill and Kate and Nikki. So if y'all have something to say, but there is something I want to kind of bring up about the house too.
Jill saying no.
Jill, I'm being a gentleman. So I just, I know you don't. I know that you're not used to that. So you're just like, what's happening? But
oh no, we treat all with respect.
Right, everyone gets respect there.
Yes,
respect for everyone today.
Yay!
You get respect. You get respect.
Exactly.
You get respect. Everybody gets respect.
That's like as if you're basically saying, like, if someone wants a quarter, everybody gets a quarter.
and
you get a quarter, and you get a quarter, and you get a quarter.
That comes with a capital R as well. That's the level of respect that I'm willing to give.
Find out what it means to me.
Oh, and Greg,
yes,
you that your copy of Salem's Lot, is that a first edition?
No. Thanks for pointing out that I'm old. I think that's what you really were trying to say there. And do you also have the first edition of the Bible, Greg?
That's not what I was implying. I mean, hey, that wasn't actually what I was implying because it is possible to come across first edition somehow. I mean, I got a first edition of Jaws from Peter Benchley.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah, it was passed down to me from a great grand relative.
No, mine is just one I picked up in the 90s, and I was actually looking to get it on Kindle just so I could kind of reread it again. One of the things I wanted to bring up is Ben Mears, in the first part of the two-parter, he tells the story of, because his mom used to clean the Marston house, right?
Right.
And he tells that story about that apparition that he sees, and he's telling his mentor, I can't remember his name, I'm kind of looking it up, but he's telling him in the bar the story, and it is truly one of the most chilling things. We don't see it at all. He's just telling the story, but it's really very impactful. And I think that, and the thing about Salem's Lot is that they can, at least the 79 miniseries, is that they can do that by just explaining it on screen, but then they back it up with some of the most frightening visuals I think ever was on television up until that point and for many years after, I think.
Uh-huh. Oh,
the scariest part of that show was when one of the Glick boys came to the window.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's like one of the most infamous scenes out of that entire series.
Let me in. The master commands it.
Yeah, scratching the window. Oh my god! And the
glowing, they
levitating.
kind of had glowing eyes almost in a way. It
The
was just
eyes, the fangs, that smile that kid had.
Oh my God, Danny
Oh,
Glick. And when Danny sits up in the coffin at the end of the first part, when
yeah,
what's his face, Mike Ryerson, he goes
Ryerson.
and he goes down there and he just is called down there, and it's, I mean, once again, as a 5-year-old, why was I watching this? I'm 5 years old.
Hey, I watched Jaws when I was 5 years old.
And the fact that his eyes were glowing silver.
Yeah, when he opens up the top and his eyes are open.
Yeah,
I was like, I must have seen it for the first time, like when I was back in high school, and I remember watching it. And it was fortunately on a night. It was like Friday or Saturday night, so I didn't have to, of course, worry about going to school the next morning. So I must have watched it. It was probably about like 2-3 o'clock in the morning. I was only like 16 years old at that time, and that entire scene, that really did, without a shadow of a doubt, scared the hell out of me.
You had to wake up in the morning. I had to wake up for preschool the next day. I mean, what on earth were they thinking?
I know.
I think I was like 7.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I wanted to ask like a related question about, I wanted to ask you guys individually, what was the first Stephen King film that you watched? How old were you, and what scene kind of stuck with you?
Stephen King's It, the miniseries from 1990 when I was 7.
Right.
That was
and
the
what
first.
scene? What scene really stuck with you?
Oh, where Pennywise offers Georgie's boat back. Meeting him in the sewer. Just all that. Hi, Georgie. Aren't you going to say hello?
I forgot to tell you, Katie's good with voices.
I know everybody says that Tim Curry is classic It, and he is, but the other guy did a pretty damn good job at it too.
Really?
Bill Skarsgård,
Yeah.
yes. I actually was thinking of Bill Skarsgård's It when I was watching the scene here in Salem's Lot where Ralphie and Danny, those sequences where they're floating out of a fog towards the window, scratching, and you notice that they're like floating around, and I'm just thinking, and I just thought back to Pennywise, where it's like, we all float down there. Yes, we do.
Now, really quick about that floating sequence. I think it was on the second scene where the boys at the glass scratching at it. When he pulls away, when he pulls away after Mark puts that cross there on the thing, when he pulls away, you can actually see the apparatus that he's sitting on as they're backing up.
All right. We don't need people to ruin it, okay, Jeremy? We should have rules about this before we bring Jeremy on.
Right. Oh wait, you know what? Now that I think about it, I think they actually parodied that on The Simpsons, on like a Treehouse of Horror, where Burns is Dracula,
and he gets like smashed around, didn't he, or something? I don't know. Really don't. Maybe. Don's like, no, Greg, that's not what happened.
Yeah, Nick.
Me yesterday from a post that I made on one of the Stephen King groups.
Yeah. Hey, Nick.
I have to ask Jeremy then. Jeremy, come on. What was the first Stephen King film? How old were you?
I saw was It, the miniseries, and it was actually while it was when it was premiering.
Mm-hmm.
My dad was watching it, but I didn't see it until we got further into that first part where Georgie winked at Bill in that little photo album.
Oh my god!
Oh yeah, that
got me. I took off.
I can imagine. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So we've got 2 It's. What about you, Nick? What was your first one?
I know I don't remember exactly which one I saw first. I saw them both at the same age. Like obviously first Stephen King films. It was either The Shining or it was, I think the other. Well, yeah, the other one is still kind of partially based off Stephen King. Creepshow, both of which I saw at age.
That wasn't
12.
based on it. That was him.
Well, Well, yeah, you know what I mean by that. So I guess probably as far as like based on a story, it would have to be The Shining then.
Oh yeah, love The
And
Shining.
the scene that really got you.
Yep. I just got it in 4K.
I think it was
Nice.
probably okay. So it
Ooh.
was really two scenes, honestly, with The Shining, and I think it really freaked me out. Both, understandably, and they're so infamous. Obviously, the scene with the twins, obvious, like when when the kid basically is out in the hallway and sees the apparitions of them. But also the other part, I think this actually probably scared me most, was when Jack Nicholson went into the bathroom and he saw the beautiful woman who was naked and started transforming into that zombie. It was
Oh my.
that was just disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh,
to me,
nice.
it definitely looked scarier in the miniseries.
I believe it.
Right. Yeah.
She was full body zombie instead of partial in the movie.
Yeah.
So we got two It and The Shining. What about you, Joe?
I probably watched it as soon as I could when it came out, so I'm up there too in age. So it's a cross between maybe Shining or Carrie. Probably as soon as they came out, and I could. My parents didn't care if I stayed up at midnight and watched every horror movie. You know, I didn't have limits, so I pretty much watched it all after 5 and on. Anything that was playing.
Wow.
Oh,
I'm
nice.
guessing Carrie or Shining.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Jill, I envy you because my parents hated horror. They were always having something against me watching the more explicit Stephen King ones.
Yeah.
And what about you, Greg?
Mine
First one?
Mine was Salem's Lot.
was.
And the thing, because I was 5 when it came out in '79. I did watch it both nights with my sister and my parents. And the thing is, because there's so many things, there's so many scenes in there, and I'll talk about one that we haven't talked about yet. Was when the priest came over to Mark's family to talk about what's going on, and that's when Straker shows up, and through the window, something black comes through the window, and it starts moving around, and it steps up, and it's Barlow, and
Very in your face.
it is.
Yeah. Oh my God. That first time I saw that, I jumped when he showed up. Like, holy cow!
that went, and also when he showed up in the jail where Ned Tevis.
That was fun.
man.
And that's like, it's just like Ned is like, who's there? Because he's half asleep, and all of a sudden it just cuts to a screen that's black, and Barlow's face just pops up in there and screams. I mean, it's like,
Well, and just when you think it's over, because you just expect it, just one scene, and then they do another shot. It's like you think it's over, but then it goes right back to his face.
Yeah.
It's like gives you that it fools you. Think, okay, God, thank God it's over, and all of a sudden he's yelling right in your face, and just
Yeah.
I think I was having a heart attack when I was watching that.
Amazing stuff.
The thing that is so brilliant with Salem's Lot is that it's more psychological and suspense horror, and they don't utilize the jump scares like they do nowadays. There's only
they don't.
like 3 or 4 jump scares throughout the entire 3-hour show. Everything else, it is suspense from minute 1.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And last one, Nikki, what was your first Stephen King film?
Add it to the numbers. It. Probably It was the first movie I've seen. And my favorite scene was when he's in the sewers and he's looking around and you see this balloon. That kind of freaked me out because I hate clowns. So, but yeah, I enjoyed the movie. Sorry.
So now we know we got one person here who loves.
I don't know if you guys
the guy who
got that
loves
because
clowns
the injection's really bad.
has now met the person who hates clowns.
Now, what about you, Kate?
Yeah, what about you, Kate?
Oh, I'm trying to remember. I think the first time it was probably either The Shining or Carrie. And I just remember I was about 11 or 12, probably about 12 when I watched Carrie with my dad.
Nice.
And the scene that stuck with me actually, like personally as a woman, is the beginning when she gets her period.
Yeah.
And that's just in itself is terrifying because it is the first time you get your period. And yeah, that really stuck with me. And he like as a writer, again, Stephen King, he can really get into the heads of anybody and kind of write really what they're feeling and it's just incredible. It really is, because you wouldn't even think about doing that, would you? That was like the first scene, and that happens. It's incredible. Yeah,
It's even
really stuck
about
with me.
what most people are afraid to write about.
Oh
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure this made a lot of people, like high schoolers, afraid of showering.
Yeah, well, and again, it's not just terrifying; it's painful to watch because the actress's reaction to it looks so genuine to you, even though, of course, obviously, it's just fake blood. It's just it has almost like a cautionary meaning to it, for especially a lot of high school students. What, Jeremy?
That's real blood, Nick. That ain't fake blood in the book. That's real blood.
Well, wait, what?
In the book, Nick.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's what I mean. In the film, I'm talking in the movie. I'm saying in the book, yes, but in the film, you get the idea.
I'm getting Nick all flustered.
Oh man.
The thing about Stephen King is that he can take the most minute of things and make it scary.
That's true.
Like,
And
for example, who would think of a statue of Paul Bunyan would be scary?
right. And I wanted to talk about I wanted to talk a little bit more about the characters in this. Like as far as each person's favorite character in Salem's Lot. For me, it was always Mark Petrie, because he was like a preteen kid who was a big horror fan, has collectibles, movies, and it's like, even though his parents didn't understand his passion for horror, he still stuck with what he loved. And I'm just like, oh man, can I relate to that? Because that reminded me so much of me growing up.
Aww.
I was in pretty much the same situation.
I think that's like that for a lot of kids.
I think I'm going to say mine is probably Collie.
I'm sorry?
Who?
Collie. The guy whose wife is the assistant of the realtor.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
The way that he handles that entire situation and got the guy so scared, literally in his drawers. Don't move! Don't move!
That was like
I am laughing my ass off in that whole.
Oh man,
that was really good, and that was Fred Willard. He did that too.
Yes. Yeah.
That was crazy. Larry Crockett.
Yeah. Crockett, who was like the rich realtor, richest guy in Salem's Lot. That's that.
Yep. And having a little something going on with Bonnie Badella. No, not Bonnie Badella.
Bonnie Bartlett.
Right.
Yeah. Bobby Bartlett. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
It's
you think it's a minor character. To me, he just brought it.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like that scene I do feel somewhat conflicted on, because it's like seeing like Crockett get his comeuppance though, but I just can't say I approve of what he does right afterwards. Beating his wife. Because I'm strongly opposed to any kind of mistreatment like that towards women. It's just disgusting to me.
And she stays with him as they leave the next day or whatever, and you see her black eye.
Yeah,
it's not good. Yeah.
Yeah.
But keep in mind, Don, different times.
Yeah,
I know.
It's not accepted at any time. This was back in the 70s.
Yes, I mean it just disgusts. I know it's just that it just disgusts me how that used to be legal.
I don't know if it was ever fully legal, but they didn't completely restrict it.
That's the thing. It's not it wasn't taken as seriously back then as it is now.
Well, I think, and maybe I'm misreading it, but I think the point of the thing is that everyone here is a piece of crap. Crockett's a piece of crap. Cully is, and so is his wife, because they're all doing bad things, and it's just, I think it's kind of a talk about what's going on in Salem's Lot. There's so much happening, and a lot of it's not good, and it's a different layer than the vampires.
Exactly. Yes.
And it makes you wonder, why did a town like this attract a vampire?
All this negative energy. It's a lot of negative energy is involved in this town, and that's probably what not necessarily saying that that's exactly what may have been the cause for these vampires to hunt down Salem's Lot, but it could have drew them in in some way, shape, or form. Because, understandably, they see that a lot with a lot of these type of negative entities. They prey on those that have that when there's a lot of negative activity or energy around, especially in a towns like Salem's Lot, that's also so isolated. So it's pretty much like the perfect hunting ground where nobody else is going to really know about this.
Nail on the head right there.
The thing about Salem's Lot is that it has that famous line, just like what Pet Cemetery did.
Yeah.
Now, in the book, it was done differently in the miniseries, but then it was redone correctly in the second miniseries, where Ben Mears is wondering, why did the house attract him if it attracts evil?
Yeah. Very much so.
Oh yeah. And let's see. What else was I gonna say? Nick, I wanted to ask you this. Like the boy vampires floating in windows scenes. I believe they actually parodied that on The Simpsons. The
I
Treehouse of
wouldn't be
Horror.
surprised if they have.
Yeah. Because I don't remember which one. Where the Dracula segment. Yeah, where Bart and his friends were floating outside of Lisa's window.
Yep, I remember that one.
I think that was a parody of Salem's Lot.
I knew it.
Can I also say, just getting back to It real fast, did anyone see the parody that The Simpsons did of It this past season?
No, I haven't. I've been meaning to, though.
You have to. It is fantastic. It is fantastic.
Oh, I'm
Season
going on
34.
Oh, I'm going on Disney Plus right after this, and I'm going to watch it.
Do it. I think it's called Not It is what I think it's called.
That's a good title.
And it's the week before. It's the episode before the latest installment of Treehouse of Terror. So it's well worth your time, and there's some very offsetting moments in it actually. So yeah, check it out.
See, I wish there was some way that we could show that, but of course we don't want to cause any copyright. But that would have been awesome. We had the freedom for it.
There's a 1 minute clip of it on YouTube.
Well, of course.
No. Hold on. Never mind. There's a 13-minute clip on YouTube, so it looks like the entire thing is on YouTube. So I just put in The Simpsons, Not It, and there it is.
I love how it's called Not It.
Not It.
Not It.
Not It.
I'm going to agree on that one. Burns. Yeah, Mr. Burns will suck.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man.
Which he'll probably break his neck by trying to do that.
Probably.
You guys have now seriously got me curious and wanting to check this out as soon as we're done here.
I've already got it pulled up. All I have to do is just hit play. So as soon as we're done.
Everybody who watches it, I want to know your opinion. Please
Okay.
let me know. I'd love to know. Because maybe it's not as good as I think it is. I think it's amazing. I think it's one of the best things Simpsons done in years, and it's beautifully done. It's beautifully animated.
I mean, Simpsons will do just about anything, literally anything. They'll make fun of anything. They'll bring on any celebrity. Like remember on Disney Plus they had Billie Eilish on one episode.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and real fast, stay and watch the end credits because the art in there is messed up. In the end credits, you'll see what I mean when you watch it.
Huh.
This I gotta see.
Now you caught my interest. I got it.
No, it's well worth your time. I guarantee it.
All right.
I stay for end credits in movies too.
Always, absolutely. Yeah, I saw The Nun 2 on Sunday, and I stayed for all that too.
And how was it?
It's fine. I mean, I don't know. For me, it took a while to get going. But it's an interesting twist from the first one, and I'm not sure if it necessarily kind of contradicts a little bit what we know about some of the characters, at least one character. But it's fine. It's a different take. I mean, I do like these period pieces. I think those are always really fun to see a really well-made film in that period piece. And then there's a post-credit piece to it as well that you want to stick around for.
Okay.
Yeah, Clark says, of course it's messed up. Oh, man.
Okay, I just kind of skimmed through this 13-minute thing. It is not the actual episode. It's got clips of it and stills.
Yeah, they do that a lot with a lot of those segments. Like they'll just have like a minute, 2 minute clip of the video, then it goes like right to a picture, or you'll say, go to this link or whatever the case is, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I kind of expected it wouldn't be the legitimate episode.
And if you have Hulu, it's on there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's YouTube for you.
Yeah, I don't have Hulu. I've got Roku and Tubi.
So do I. Yeah.
Tubi or not Tubi? That is the question. Yeah, but Tubi's
There
got
we
some
go.
crazy things on there. Oh man, but yeah, like over this past summer, I went back to like reading it, like mainly because I've been excited about the new movie coming out, and it's like just as terrifying and gripping as it was when I first read it.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It is.
The
It is.
audio book is amazing too.
Who reads it? Is it Stephen King that reads it, or?
No,
Or I have the audio book on my phone here. Here, let me pull it up.
All right.
Where's books? Oh, here.
it's not a name I recognized. Now,
Library. Here, Salem's Lot, narrated by.
And before anyone asks, I'm not sure if I'd ever be able to do an audio book of my own for a book like Salem's Lot, because that might be a little too much for me to work on.
Oh, here.
Ron
Narrated by Guilford Godfrey.
Here, Ron McLarty.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ron McLarty. Not a name I recognize.
Yeah.
Don't know who that is either.
Yeah.
Me neither.
Well, he also does Stationary Bike, which is a short story by Stephen King that I would listen to every year when I would go on my bowling trip, because it's only an hour and a half long story.
Yeah.
So I would listen to it every single year on that trip.
Wow.
And finally, last year, I decided, I'm going to start listening to some of the other Stephen King audiobooks, just to see what they sound like. And listening to the people read it is a much different experience than actually reading it yourself.
I see.
May I ask, just out of curiosity, how many of the audiobooks that you've heard are narrated by men, and how many are narrated by women?
Out of all the ones that I have listened to so far, and I've listened to, I think, 40 different stories, and that's a mix between the short stories and the novels. I think maybe 4 of them total.
Oh yeah, like I'm not much of a audiobook listener. It's like I more just read the story. It sinks in a lot better. Or like seeing the words, reading it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
No, I was just interested, like, to know, like, if that's what's the word? If that's intentional, that it should be read by men and not women because it's by Stephen King, or I'm interested to
If
know.
the story itself has a female narrator to it, then it's going to be read by a female. That's why I cannot wait to listen to the Dolores Claiborne audiobook, because I am so.
Oh, great.
When I read that book, I read it entirely in Kathy Bates' voice.
Well, I think that's absolutely brilliant, for that matter, because again, I think part of that actually did give me some of that inspiration to work on my own audiobooks. Obviously, as we're currently in production with Nightmare Soup 3, where I'm getting both men and women for this, because I think honestly, yeah, I know. Yeah, Jeremy, he already said his story. So far, only 3 stories have been sent to me. So, but I'm at a good start either way.
Oh yeah. And one thing I noticed about Stephen King's stories, he has all kinds of tropes that carry on throughout just about all of his work. Like starting with this one. We're starting with this one, the trope of like one their main character is a writer. Yeah, like they follow this exact same thing in The Shining, in Tommyknockers, in it's constant. And there's like alcoholism, there's abuse, there's all sorts of things that he's constantly using throughout his stories.
Yeah.
Same in Rose Madder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so many.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Jeremy, go.
Oh, I was going to say the thing about Salem's Lot that surprised me that I forgot about when I read it is that it has he thrusts his fist against the post and still insists he sees the ghost, which was very prevalent in it. I
Yeah.
completely forgot that it was in Salem's Lot.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah, interesting.
that's right. And I was surprised seeing that in the book because the miniseries didn't show that.
No.
Oh, they didn't. No.
Yeah. Oh man, like and there were some things that even though it covers like many of the tropes as far as vampires, one thing that it didn't do is like have that vampire turns into a bat, then turns back. You know, it never shows that it doesn't follow all of the tropes, just specific ones. And the way that like these vampires like they differ from each other. Like the vampires that and that's oh man. That Barlow that he
Barlow, yeah,
turns
Count Barlow.
they look different than him, like because Barlow has like these his teeth are different, like they have the glowing eyes, yeah, but the teeth he has like these incisors, yeah, those two sharp teeth in front, like the
He's
Nosferatu.
not-
Yeah, I was going to say,
Yeah.
you can clearly tell that Count Barlow is pretty much the design of him is based off of Count Orlok from Nosferatu from 1922.
Right, and how like his the vampires that he transforms, they have like the canines, yeah, like the that we typically see in like vampire movies these days, but vampire bats, they actually have both of those kinds of teeth. They have incisors and they have canines.
I also feel like that the vampires they turn into almost more like zombies than they don't really. There's not a lot of human kind to them left. They're hissing a lot and stuff. And I think one of the most shocking versions of that is when Marjorie Glick, the boy's mom, she becomes a vampire, and both Ed Flanders, what's he playing, Bill Norton, and Ben Mears confront her at the mortuary. Ben Mears creates that cross out of the sticks, and he puts it to her head. I mean,
popsicle sticks.
And it's absolutely it's incredible. It's such a powerful scene, and she just screams throughout the whole thing. Ugh.
She does.
I think it was that particular moment that made those two realize, okay, they were already thinking it, but now having seen it and gone up against it, oh shit, this is real.
Well, and I think Bill did not believe it at all. That was definitely the moment, because he left Ben in there, because he's like, I got to go take this. You'll be fine. And she slowly becomes like alive again, or wakes up. And it's just the tension of that scene as he's taping that cross together and he's praying, and it's fantastic. And I'm sure you all know that the woman who played Marjorie Glick was actually James Mason's wife as well.
Yep.
That's
right.
right.
Yep.
Very true.
You know, one other thing too to kind of throw in, and it's actually what you were just saying regarding the appearance of these vampires, Greg, is that it really kind of sticks to the element of, like, in some cases, of how vampires are supposed to kind of look like, at least in this part of the world. Because if you kind of look at a lot of the vampire legends, like in the Eastern European tradition, the vampires, of course, there appeared pretty much as they did in life, with the exception of like pale, white, ice cold skin. But in other parts around the world, including the United States, such as a story like Salem's Lot, you got vampires in this movie that are kind of more demonic. They're actually monsters in this case. And what better example could that be in a case like with Salem's Lot?
Oh yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, very much so.
I think that the biggest thing about that one is that, at least in this story, is that these vampires, even though you know they're vampires, they got the glowing eyes and they got the teeth, they still very much look like human beings instead of the demonic monsters.
Yeah.
Almost like a hybrid, almost like a cross between like the Eastern European tradition and the American style vampires. So it's like they're kind of throwing in both traditions, if you will, again, kind of creating like a hybrid.
And that they want to settle scores, like once again with Ryerson. And he becomes a vampire, and he goes and he hangs out at Jason Burke's house and waits for Jason to come up and see him. and he just mocks him for, teacher and all that. I mean, it's
That's
incredible.
another unsettling scene.
It's
Yeah,
so
it is.
unsettling. It's so because it's even like after Jason pushes him or gets him through the window. Even though he has a heart attack at that moment, I'm still like, what's stopping them from coming back in? That was the thing I kept thinking about. It's like, what's stopping Ryerson from coming back into the house? I mean, it just
revoked it. He revoked his invitation.
That's true. He did. You're right. You're not welcome here anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, they still kept that tradition of, that they need permission to come into a certain area, and they were unable to do that.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's basically telling them, "I cast thee out."
And to answer Clark's question, that's for another show, but I'll just put it this way. There have been plenty of books written about the Mothman, Clark. I got one of those books.
And the disturbing thing about the way that he mocks the teacher, it's, "Look at me, teacher."
Yeah.
I mean, come on. That is scary as hell.
Yeah, it is.
It is. It is. And even, do you remember even the point when Jason invites him to stay in his house, and he runs into Ben and Jason at the bar, and he's just like mumbling and drinking and stuff, and even that's super unsettling.
Oh yeah.
Well, there's also where he's got the marks all over his bodies and the bite marks on his neck.
Yeah.
But then after he dies and they start observing him, all of that is gone.
Yeah.
And he's wondering, I'm telling you, this guy had bruises on his body. He had holes in his neck. Ben's like, they're not there.
And the night that the night that he dies, Jason can't sleep because he can hear voices coming up from the room, and that's even just like you can't make out the voices. It almost sounds like kind of a chipmunk sort of noise, but it's like, what is happening here?
Oh my god.
Not far from that.
What would Salem's Lot sound like if it was voiced by the Chipmunks?
Oh God. I would never be able to take it seriously. I'm like,
no way.
If I had $1 every time someone asked me that one, huh?
Yeah. It's gonna run off in the first 5 seconds.
You don't know me very well, Clark Kent. Put your glasses back on.
I think the window scene with the kid going on the window kind of reminds me of the Lost Boys when he was floating in the window and telling his brother, "Let me in," and he's like, "I'm not letting you in. You're floating."
You're floating.
And
They all float.
at the hospital.
Oh yeah, same thing at the hospital when Ralphie was visiting him. Yeah, Ralphie.
Yeah, and that was another scary scene where the nurse finds Danny lying in a weird position.
Yeah.
That's right.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. And like they toned down a whole lot of the disturbing parts of this, like we mentioned, like the cemetery scene where they're burying Danny. Like in the book, his father had had a breakdown, drop an F-bomb, saying, basically going against them burying his son. Like that was a truly shocking scene. And then it's like sure it's gonna be on TV. It would probably be too unsettling for some viewers, but I can actually see them adapting that to film nowadays.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, a scene like that has been done in several other movies. Not necessarily in a burial scene, but upon discovery that your child is dead, like the guy from the fourth Harry Potter movie.
Right, I remember that.
And also Sean Penn in Mystic River, the way that he reacted when it was discovered that his daughter was killed.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That one was brutal.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah, it definitely.
My dear friends, I'm gonna sneak out here because I got a 10 o'clock. My show's gonna start at 10. I gotta start getting ready. So I just wanted to thank you all very much for the awesome conversation and inviting me on tonight. That was
no problem. No problem.
Very much.
Awesome.
Great having you here.
Thank you very much. And stick around and watch me. We got Cheryl Lynn Carter talking about alien abductions with her new book.
Cheryl, tell her I said hi. I know her all too well.
Yeah, we'll send put something in the comments and say hi. That's how that works.
Will do.
All righty. Take care, everyone.
All right, take care, Greg.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Bye,
Bye.
Greg.
Another thing I'd like to add on is actually the scene that Greg was talking about with Marjorie Glick. After Ben Mears puts that cross on her head, and then all she does is just screams and then just vanishes into thin air. Then all of a sudden, everything starts falling over.
Yeah, I was like, why did the stuff fall over? I didn't get that when I first saw it.
Yeah,
That really seemed to make a lot of sense.
that was a little out of place.
Yeah.
But for the time, it was 1979, so I get it.
And I was thinking, is she dead? Did she teleport, or what's going on here?
It never really
Carrie.
explains the implication is that she was killed, and she just
like appeared out of thin air in a way.
So vampires can teleport in this.
no, she just vanished. She just poof, gone.
Just no trace of her.
Okay, so it did kill her. Okay. Oh man, yeah, like I love the way the vampires like.
At least.
Oh yeah, like the one thing I never forget is there's the glowing eyes of those vampires. Like I'm guessing that's a combination between visual effects and also possibly context.
It would have to be context, definitely.
Yeah, reflective contacts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I wonder too, like how well the actors were able to see the contact through those contact lenses. Because I've often been told on a lot of occasions, like when you have such heavily decorated contact lenses like that, it sometimes does make it a little bit difficult to see, especially if it's got a lot of coloration put onto them.
I think Michael Jackson had trouble with his contacts when he was filming Thriller.
Well, I'm not surprised. I'm sure that, again, that's another good example. Like you could, if you were just doing like a scene where you're just standing, just for one scene or sitting or whatever, that's pretty much manageable. But if you got to like actually walk around or move around and stuff, that can be quite difficult for the actor themselves, especially if they're actors that, even if they've had, even if they wear contacts in their lifetime, it's got to still be difficult for them when they're completely like decorated.
So imagine how it was for the Glick boys having those contacts and then having to sit on that thing and being up in the air.
Oh yeah,
totally.
You made a good point.
Yeah,
and also contact lenses back then, they were much thicker. I mean, when you think about contact lenses now, they're so thin and they breathe, whereas back then, they were really, really thick, heavy things that you had to put in your eyes. So can't imagine.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't do it.
Just the absolute stress that would have been put on somebody's eyes. I mean, they probably would have had to have been so relieved, like then, I can finally take these things out.
Yeah. And that was one of the reasons why the guy Reggie Nalder, he did not like those he is quoted here saying the makeup and contact lenses were painful, but I got used to them.
Yeah.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
But like Don said, his screen time was so minimal. But imagine how many takes did he have to do? Because in order to be able to act the way that he did, there's no way that was a one take Johnny.
That's right.
Oh, definitely not.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, because man, with all the scenes they had to do there, that takes quite a lot of takes. Man, let's see. Oh yeah, like one thing I wanted to ask about the ending. The house burning down. I'm guessing that was like a model house. They didn't actually burn down an actual house because obviously because there were occupants that owned the place. So I'm guessing like they constructed some kind of a miniature.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wouldn't appreciate it if somebody burned down my house for the sake of filming.
Yeah, pretty sure no one would actually do that.
Well, you know what? Actually, not Salem's Lot, but there was a film that did do something like that. Oh. And believe it or not, that was actually one of the Amityville films. Amityville 2, The Possession. You remember at the end near the end of the film when they did that full exorcism, and then there's that scene where just the house just like blows up on its sides. And it turned out the explosions that they used for that was real. And while it didn't really destroy the actual house itself, even though that too had a facade on it. They, I did remember hearing that, I guess part of the explosion backfired, if you will, and as a result of that, one side of the house was burned from the explosion.
Ah, yeah, I think I did read about that. Yes. Oh man. Let's see what I did have something. Oh yeah. Man, I remember like the like I think what to you is like the most shocking scene of the entire movie? Like for the like Jill, what was your most shocking scene in this movie?
Just seeing Nosferatu for the first time.
Count
Vampire.
Barlow.
Yeah, finally seeing him, and then after Stryker says, "Oh, he'll be here. He'll be shortly. Oh yeah, he'll be around soon."
I like how they also made him a really tall figure. Like he towered over like not only just his victims, but he was even like larger than life compared to the other vampires, and that really signified that he was the leader, and the one who started it all. So I also liked how they made him quite not only just frightening by his face and whatnot, but just made him so in those long claws he's got, just made him intimidating completely.
Totally. Yeah.
What? I agree.
Oh yes. Yeah. What about you and Nikki? What was the most terrifying scene for you in this?
I haven't seen the movie.
Oh, you haven't? Oh, Tom.
Tom makes a good point. Yeah, parents were killed.
But
that was quite upsetting.
It sounds good though. It's on my other list. I've got like 5 pages of movies I have to watch. So.
What about you, Jeremy?
I am probably going to go with that cemetery scene where Mike Ryerson undigs the Glick boy, because I think that was the first actual visual of a vampire in the show.
Yeah, like it was that was a pretty shocking scene. This like especially when he opens the casket and his eye Danny's eyes are open, and I'm just like, oh my god!
That's the first time you see a vampire in that show, and that lets you know, okay, it's going down.
Right,
something's happening.
Let's see. What about you, Kate?
I would say the first time that you see Nosferatu, because I remember seeing that and it just gave me nightmares. Because I was like, what if he's actually in my room, lurking in a corner, in a dark corner, or he's going to come out my wardrobe because I'm British, but yeah, closet. What if he like comes out of my closet? So yeah, I didn't sleep very well after seeing that.
Yeah, like the jail scene.
The long fingers, right? The long fingers and
the long fingers, the eyes, the incisors.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, that jail scene. Like that's one of the first times you see him.
Yeah, just he's a vibe, isn't he? And you just don't want that vibe in your house. Yeah.
Right. So Nick, what about you?
You kind of actually answered. Kind of given my answer already. I was undoubtedly the jail scene. I mean, I would say that's just like such an unsettling and frightening scene. I mean, imagine just like waking up in the middle of the night and you see something like that out in the corner of your room. I actually would probably say that. I will say one good thing is that would be perfect for sleep paralysis.
I sleepwalk.
Classic. Oh man.
Are you done?
Oh, for me? Let's see. The scenes where the Glick boys are at the windows. Those scenes. Okay. That's what really stands out the most for me.
That's just like one for sure.
The way the fog just appears and they just come out like they're swimming through the air, like coming out towards the window and just like scratching at it while they're just like floating around. Like, oh man.
Okay, me too.
You know, a scene like that right now, if they had filmed it, everybody would just laugh it right out of the building. But again, this was 40 some years ago.
Almost 45, yeah.
It had an impact.
Yeah.
Oh yes. It did. It's just
And if you watch it as a child, it really impacts you. So you are really fearful when you're going to bed and seeing shadows, from the window and scratching from wind. And you're like, oh my God, are they at my window?
Yeah, close the blinds.
And that was the whole thing, because back in the 70s and 80s, the stories that Stephen King came out with, nobody has ever imagined would be possible.
Definitely.
And now here we are, almost 50 years after he put out Carrie. It's just amazing thinking about the body of work that he has put out and how many people he has frightened.
How old is Stephen King now?
75.
Yeah, I was going to say he's about 75 years old by now.
Okay.
Yeah. And he just put out his 66th novel, about 90th book.
It's crazy to think he was actually a few years ago, and I never would expect him to appear on a comedy show in this case. Well, as a guest, that is, but he actually appeared as a guest on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. So it was kind of unreal to see him on a show with Stephen Colbert involved. But I think he was talking about one of his latest novels that he wrote. He wasn't actually actually didn't show up. It was just like a video chat, because this was still when COVID-19 was still running rampant. So he was only able to do it through a video chat. But what he had to say was just phenomenal. It's just amazing for somebody still, even in his 70s, to still keep going. I mean, this is probably going to be something he'll continue doing up until his eventual death. I think he just loves doing it. So that's probably among one of the reasons why that's a true sign of commitment, and that's probably among one of the reasons why, despite his age, he'll probably never retire from doing this, because he enjoys doing it.
He's already said that in this latest interview that he did last weekend. He's going to keep writing until God tells him not to write anymore. That's what he said.
Pretty much.
I actually have a database of every piece of work that he's put out that's included novels, story collections, nonfiction. He has 97 titles to his name.
Wow.
Almost to 100.
Yeah, almost to 100. But keep in mind, that is story collections. The one that had 20, that's only counted as one. So if you go by the individual stories, he's probably got about 250.
And
I have to say, just one comment. I'm sure that Stephen King is the same species as Keith Richards. He's going to live forever.
Well, I mean, he did survive. He did recently. I don't know if you guys remember, about 10, 15 years ago. I mean, he actually suffered a very severe car accident. And he. So,
that was in 1999.
Oh, that was
almost lost his left leg because of that. But
really? I didn't know the details of it. So I thought it was more like in the mid 2000s.
In 5 or 6 different places. And there was a consideration of amputation, but they were able to save it.
Really lucky. So yeah, I didn't know it was about almost 25 years ago.
Well, I've seen the pictures. It was one of those nasty things where you got the brace on your leg, and you also got the pins going into your skin.
Man. So
and guess what? He still wrote through that. He wrote Dreamcatcher going through that.
He did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like no matter what he's going through, whether it's a messed up leg or drugs or alcoholism, he just keeps on doing what he's best at.
Well, Kate makes
had a really bad, I want to say pneumonia episode a few years ago where he almost died from that too.
Yeah, I mean, Kane makes a good point, saying he'll probably just live on forever because he's able to really survive a lot of such of these issues that he's had throughout his life. He's still going strong. 75 years old.
Yeah,
he's got 2 books coming out next year.
He does. Hey Nick, Billy's asking if you would do a reaction video with me.
I would. I would love to. It's just that with everything that's been going on. Because, again, I'm trying to get this scary story series off the ground. And actually, Don, I got to talk to you about that because I actually might need help, in fact, with a few videos, but I can talk about that at a later time. But we will eventually.
Yes. Oh, here, Chloe Clark says.
I don't even have a door in my closet.
Me neither,
Oh, okay.
but I got
you're screwed.
masking tape.
I was about to say, you don't have a door, Jeremy? Well, then, you're screwed.
I have
I don't, but I've got.
two doors total in my house. One in the spare bedroom upstairs and one on the bathroom down here. Every other room in the house, no door.
I gotcha. Yeah.
Them all off.
I'll see
Like
what I
me,
can do.
Jeremy. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Billy, I'll see what I can do as far as me and Nick reacting to something. We'll see what we can do. Let's see. Yeah. Well, I don't have to worry about vampires because I have a crosshair, never take it off ever.
Just make one with popsicle sticks.
Yeah, there you go.
You can't just take it off because this chain here is considered like so durable it's nearly unbreakable. So,
What kind of chain is it?
yeah, well, it's I forgot what kind of metal it was, but it's extremely highly durable. Like it doesn't bend, it doesn't nothing.
So if somebody were to grab it and yank on it, it won't break?
Nope. Yeah,
Not
like
even
I was just holding
Is it
my
just cool?
I was just holding my third cousin. She just turned 2, so and she was like interested in the necklaces, grabbing them both, and of course her mom was just like, "What? Oh wait, Ellie, don't grab the necklaces." I was like, "No, she's fine. These necklaces are stronger than you think."
To you ain't going to break it.
All right. It's going to take a lot more than a 2-year-old's grip to break this.
Yeah.
Yeah, Billy.
I'm
Actually,
screwed no matter which way you go, so it don't matter to me.
yeah. So Billy, actually, Catholic. Yeah, that's what I am.
So if
So,
we're
we're
world is
running out of time.
taken-
It's about turn 10. Okay, so let's wrap this up.
nice. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's wrap this up. So, Nick, you can make your announcements.
Yeah. So very quickly. There is going to be an episode of Nick Files tomorrow afternoon, and this is where I'm going to be making a full transition because I guess kind of in a way we're gonna. It's kind of the start of like Halloween specials, if you will. The transition we're making is going to be going from haunted and historical locations and events to now cryptids. So this will be kind of the focus for next couple of weeks, is focusing on different cryptids. And the first one I have, and I'm actually starting off, unlike most times when people focus on cryptids, they usually focus on the most notorious ones. That's not what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be focusing on what's known as the Enfield Horror, which is here in Illinois. Not the Enfield Haunting in the UK, but a different Enfield here in southern Illinois. It's one of the least known cryptids. And I'm not sure for Thursday To the Grave and Back what we're going to be talking about. Jeremy, who do we have for Supernatural talk?
We had Brad Ferris. He's a good friend of mine that I've investigated with on a number of occasions. He lives just outside of Indy, and we're going to be having him on the show Thursday night.
Okay, and finally, also then, and as far as for Friday, I got to actually reach out to Lois about this. I will not be able to do the Frighteners this Friday because I have another Paracon that I'll be attending this upcoming weekend. We're leaving Friday. We got SilCon coming up, so looking forward to it. So
speaking of which, Nick, if you don't know about this yet, the Fort Wayne Paracon has been postponed.
I knew that already. I remember in the message about it. I thought that was kind of odd that they just canceled it. Like,
no, it's not canceled. It's just
postponed. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and that's right. I did. I put it in that one chat. I forgot.
Yep, I remember. So.
Yeah,
So that's that. Oh, and also too, actually, one final announcement. As a lot of you guys know, I've also I'm going to be working on a new audiobook series soon with everybody. A few of us here that are taking part of it, but I'm also working on another audiobook that I'm just releasing the stories of. I'm going to just zoom in on this real quick. It's actually this book right here, which is called At the Cemetery Gates Year 1. There's 14 stories total in this book, and 7 of them 7 of them have already been released on YouTube. So I'm already halfway through. I'm going to try to upload at least 2 or 3 more later tonight, depending if I can get the sound effects and music. But they're available on YouTube, so you can check them out. They're free, no cost at all. And of course, obviously, if you guys like what you hear from these stories, check out the other audiobooks that I've done. And like I said, a few of us here are currently working on another. So there's going to be a lot of new scary stories coming out this upcoming late September and October Halloween season. So we got a lot coming. You guys have heard some of the stories that I've shown on this show. So there's definitely going to be a lot more to come. So definitely check it out.
Yeah, mine is extremely scary.
Yeah, Kate, I'm sure. I think the one you chose is pretty frightening too. So
Yeah,
Jeremy's a
I'm
part of
excited.
it. This is going to be Kate's first time.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of, and eventually I will make a trailer like I did with the first one. So
Yeah.
hopefully at some point in the near future, Don, if you don't mind, maybe one of these shows I could show the trailer on the show. So,
Right.
but for starters, I need more narrations before I can even move on to that, because 3 is not going to cover it.
Gotcha.
Quick, Nick, right here. If you zoom in on her,
Here, hold on.
Lucy's sitting
On
right
you?
in the background. Yeah, zoom in.
Yep.
If you take a look, Lucy is right there.
Yes! Lucy.
No. Hang on 1 minute.
Oh my gosh.
Here, Nick.
Hi.
Billy's talking to you. Billy's talking to you, Nick.
Yeah,
Give
you
her
got
doll.
a comment for me. What would you like to say, Billy? Because we do have to get
Oh,
off this.
that one.
Peach Creaky, unofficial Ed and Eddie. What?
But
Yeah, I am into that show. I love it. Ed and Eddie. That brings back
He,
memories.
he wants us to react to that.
Oh, okay. That makes a lot of sense.
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, that's gonna be it for
What?
that's going to be it for this episode of the Fear Fans podcast. We'll be sure to come back here next Tuesday, same time at 8:30 p.m. Central Time. But Nick, you said you won't be joining us for that because you have other
I
engagements.
have my passages, man. I mean, if you still want to proceed, go right ahead. I'm just going to be unavailable. So I'll be back on the show 2 weeks from now.
Okay.
And where's Tom at? He never showed up.
You know
Yeah,
what?
I was
I
wondering
actually did reach out to Tom because I wasn't sure if you sent the link, Don, very quick.
I did.
Oh, you did? Okay. So he got back to me and he said, just bear with me for just a few seconds. He's really exhausted tonight. He said, barely keeping my eyes open tonight. Another long week here. He got his staples out. He just got over COVID. And unfortunately, I'm sending, my support for him. His son ended up in the hospital, which was issues with his appendix. So, I mean, he's home now, but between that and back to work, he's just totally exhausted. So unfortunately, he was unable to be part. He would have loved to if he was able to, but essentially he had a lot of stress and exhaustion.
Understandable. I got you.
I told him it's no big deal.
Okay.
You can always come back next week.
Oh yeah, for sure. Okay, so to wrap this up, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and those of you watching who've been watching my live gaming live stream, I will be back on Thursday to play some more Uncharted Drake's Fortune. Been having fun with that, and so can't wait to continue on with that game. So so join me on Thursday at 7 p.m. Central Time for that, and be sure to tune in next week when we come back to Fear Fans Podcast. Looking forward to it. Till then, have a good night, and thank you so much for watching. Good night.
night, everyone.
Night, everyone.